life, kid.
Do you have a personal favourite game that you've composed for? And if so, what made arranging the music for it so special?
I guess it's Timesplitters. Well, the Timesplitters series. Timesplitters 1 was probably the favourite that I composed for.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I had something to prove. Because it was a new company when we set up Free Radical, and it was like, well, we better not muck this one up. so there was a lot riding on it. Listening back over now all the years are gone, I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but it was the one that I had the most kind of good feelings doing. Because if I listen back to it now, I'd probably say, Timesplitters 2 was better, and then Timesplitters 3, I enjoyed doing that, even though I didn't enjoy doing that. I enjoyed the music I wrote, but at the time when I was doing TS2, I thought I was done. I thought, these songs are rubbish, they're not, what's going on? But that's just the way things happen at times. So from an experience, really enjoyed Timesplitters 1.
Timesplitters 1 is the soundtrack I always listen to.
Right.
Okay. Since the days of chiptunes, a lot has changed in the way the music is developed for video games. What do you feel has been the biggest shift?
Oh, blimey. Well, I mean, I suppose to my mind, the biggest change is there's no limitations anymore. I mean, chiptunes, you were constricted by memory, very much so, and also depending on the hardware you were working with, you had channel restrictions. So the classic is the Spectrum of 1 to start with, and then going up to I think 3 when the Spectrum Plus came out, and Commodore 64 obviously 3, maybe 4 if you could squeeze a sample out of it, etc. etc. You know where I'm going, but you had to find tricks to try and get the best out of what you had, which was very limited. Now, with there being hardly any limitations, you have to almost create your own. Otherwise, you'll go crazy because you don't know what. You can have everything, so you have to have almost a set of rules. Well, that's how I go about it. Create a sound palette that you're going to go back to for a game, so it has a sound. It has its own sort of signature. Otherwise, it's too easy just to go off in all kinds of directions.
Yeah. How much did the actual Super Nintendo have for holding memory? I think something like a kilobyte.
It was 40 kilobytes. 40 kilobytes. 8 sound channels. So yes, not very much at all.
I think it must have been pretty difficult putting all of Killer Instinct onto that.
You should have come to my talk, because I went through it in quite nerdy, boring detail of how it got from the coin up to the to the SNES. It was all about what we used to call back in those days single cycle loops. So the actual samples of an instrument were like bytes.
Yeah.
And that was the only way around you could do it. But I was so restricted with what I had to play with back in those days that it wasn't how I wanted it to be. So if I had the time, I've got the inclination. If I had the time, that's what I'd love to do.
Yeah.
I'd love to recompose all that with modern technology, basically. Yeah.
Okay, which is your favourite track from Glass Quarter?
Blimey, why'd you ask me that? It's really cheesy, but I do like Simeon Akers' because
The banjo.
the banjo one, yes. Yeah, because that was kind of that was what I would call the breakthrough of that project, because the game suddenly was coming together. So whereas before I was writing music on spec, i.e., we think it's going to be this, we think it's going to be that. So I was writing tunes and not seeing them in game, so I didn't really know what it was going to be like. And that one, I was writing like a few bars, putting it into the N64 and playing the game with it.
Yeah.
And I know Robin came in and he said, "That's my favourite track of yours." I said, "Right, okay, well I better carry on with that one." And I just really, that was good fun.
And a great track. Which bands or artists inspired you in your sort of writing process? Or
back in the day, I don't know if it shows through, but I used to love Orbital.
Oh yeah.
And it was something about them that used to make me want to write music, which I don't know if I inadvertently copied them. I mean, I've obviously done that for many things in the past. I mean, I love industrial music and goth music and stuff, but obviously not sort of tipped my hat to that kind of stuff wherever I could.
Yeah.
Much to Rare's annoyance. I remember once. It was before Grant took over Donkey Kong 64. I think I was going to do it for some reason. And I remember Simon Farmer, the sort of guy at the time, said, "We can't have any of your Depeche Mode beats in it, Graham." It's like, all right. Well, that's a very funny thing to say. I'm trying to think who else. It would vary. It'd be whoever. I mean, whatever I was listening to at the time. I mean, Orbital was obviously quite an old reference, but
I really like their I think it's their Doctor Who theme remix. That was an excellent track.
Yeah. No, I just there's something very atmospheric about it, even though it's instrumental and sort of electronica and stuff.
Yeah. Can you describe your process of writing music, and has it changed much since you began?
I wish I could, because if I knew what it was, I could sit down every day and write music. I don't have a process. It's a case of either staring at a screen long enough until something happens, which is usually about 4:30 at night, having spent all day avoiding doing anything. I have little fits and starts of where I get to write stuff, and that will usually be first thing in the morning before anyone's got hold of me and bothering me about stuff, or last thing at night when everyone's buggered off home. No, I wish I knew. I mean, a lot of ideas I get when I'm sort of not writing music, as opposed to if I sat down to write it, nothing. If I'm doing something else like hoovering or walking or
something you're struck by lightning.
Suddenly you have an idea and I think yes, that'll do it. I'll write it down quickly and then go back to the office the next day and work on that.
That's a good way to do it. That's how I used to do it.
Right.
When I was a travelling musician. King K. Rool's theme in Donkey Kong Land to Simeon Acres.
Sorry, what?
King K. Rool's theme in Donkey Kong Land to Simeon Acres in Glasgow. Are there any tunes that you've made for the previous game that never came to light but finally got a chance to appear in like another title?
Oh, right. So is that the one that was in Donkey Kong Land? Right. Okay. Hang on. Let me backtrack. So. Yeah, that's a good question. I need to ask Robin about that, because I think they removed it from when they did the. This is not something to this, by the way. Thinking aloud. So when they did the Rare replay, I think they had to take that tune out because it was in DK Land.
Oh, okay.
But I never got to. I don't know if I think Robin knows, but I asked him and he said he'd find out what happened, but forgot. So before I answer the question, which I'm going to have to ask you about it again, I did that through laziness. I can't remember why I did it either, because I wrote DK Land first, and then for whatever reason, I think what it was. Sorry, I'm just rambling now. It's my Grandpa Simpson. Blast Core went through a period where the Stampers didn't like it. They didn't think it was cute enough, and it was always Chris Stamper's idea. That was like his idea was to do Blast Core years and years before we did it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was what he wanted. So we went through this period of it's too dark, it's not cute enough, and I thought, all right, I'll show you cute.
Yeah.
So I took a tune from DK Land and turned it into whatever it's called on Blast Core. I'd probably just call it bonus level or something like that. What was the question? sorry Ed.
It's fine now. So, from the King K. Rool theme in Donkey Kong Land to Simeon Acres in Blast Core.
Right.
Are there any tunes that you've made for a previous game that never came to light but finally got a chance to appear?
Oh, I see. Right. Well, we're going back to Scotland the Brave, which I probably shouldn't have. I mean, it's out. People have found out about it anyway because it was in I think it was on an E3 video or something. But it was originally wrote it for Perfect Dark and we didn't use it. And I just forgot about it all. But then, when it came to Timesplitters Future Perfect, it struck me that one time when I was on holiday in Cologne, and I thought, actually, that would suit it really well. And I resurrected that, and I was really happy with it. And so far, I haven't been sued by Microsoft on it. There was quite a lot for Jet Force I wrote that just got dumped.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to have used, but whether it ever makes, I don't know. It's one of those things. There's a lot of stuff I've written that has not seen the light of day. But it's just waiting for that situation where it suits the project or stuff. Whether that ever happens, you never know. But sometimes I listen back to stuff that was unfinished for whatever reason, or not used, or maybe the game was canned, and it's like, oh man, it's a shame. But it's at the same time, when you're writing on a new project, you've got a whole load of new ideas and a new direction and stuff, and it's not always suiting to go back and say, well, that we can take that from 10 years ago and it works. It's just in that one particular case for the Scotland the Brave, it just struck me that it was a good one to use.
Given the chance, which gaming series would you love to compose for?
That's a good question. I'd love to do I don't know if I could do it because it's pretty freaking jazzy, but I'd love to do an Outrun game.
Outright. Oh.
Because and I haven't really followed. I mean, when I say Outrun, I mean the original one, with magical sound shower and all those sort of things. Because I just love that soundtrack. If I could do that, it'd be amazing.
So, over the course of your career, you've worked on a lot of games that have gained a lot of, and you've gained a lot of experience doing so. Are there any songs you've made from earlier days that you either cringe at hearing now?
No, they're all brilliant. What are you talking about? Loads, absolutely loads. And if I didn't, I think there'd be something wrong with my brain, because the idea is you improve as you go along. I've definitely said this before. I don't know if it was in an interview or not, but there was a piece in Blast Core, which was the shuttle launch, which I absolutely cringe whenever I hear it. And even when I wrote it, I thought, what am I doing? You know, I stuck it in anyway. I don't know. I'd have to re-listen to a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that didn't make Killer Instinct, which I'm glad didn't make Killer Instinct. I wrote about 70 pieces for that first game.
Yeah.
4 of which we used in the final game. But some of those are stinkers. So yeah, too many to mention, I think. And some worthy that they shouldn't ever be heard again, but others just because you learn as you go along, and also your tastes change.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd never. I think it'd be. Although one of your previous questions was redoing Blast Core, I'd love to redo it, but I'd never write music like that again. And that's not to say I don't like it, but it's just you change over time. So,
if you could pick one song that you'd want fans to identify with you, which one would it be?
Remember Me This Way. Oh God, I don't know. If anyone knows a composer, they always have their favourites or whatever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to impose that on anyone, but Gordon Bennett, that's a tricky one. Possibly Siberia from Timesplitters 2.
Oh, good track.
But I don't know, Ed, that's a really contentious one. That's a really tricky to answer. Yeah, I don't know. I can't do that one.
Okay then. What's an important bit of advice for any aspiring composers that are trying to get into the industry?
Wait until I'm dead. Then you can have your time. Get off my patch.
Yeah, get off my time.
Don't be too. All right. This is not meant to be. This is not meant to sound cliche, but it will. Don't be too precious about your work, because what you think is ace, someone else might think is garbage.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone. There's always going to be some people that like what you do and some people that don't and think it's rubbish. But yeah, if you're not too precious, and someone says, well, that's not what we're looking for, can you do this? Then if you're flexible, you've got a lot more chance to get on in this industry. Because if you're say, for instance, I only like doing this one style of music, then you're going to starve.
Yeah.
You have to be pretty open to even to doing stuff that you might not like that much. Like, it might be a style that really isn't you, but if you're willing to study that style and absorb it, and write for it, then I think the doors will be opening more than they would be if you were just steadfast. Well, I do this. I do all country, so that's what this game should have.
Actually, one more question which I forgot to write down. I think I sent it to you in an email. I don't know if you saw it or not. I remember reading somewhere ages ago in a Nintendo magazine that there was, I think it was Timesplitters 2 on the Game Boy.
Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. And all those tracks were converted to tracker files. So I think it was 8 channels again. Or back to the SNES again. But we had to squeeze everything right down, and it sounded terrible. But it was Advance.
Yeah.
It was a Game Boy Advance. And we had the finished game. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. It was a sideways scroller.
Oh,
It was pretty far removed from Timesplitters, but it was at the time when you'd get your console version and then you'd get a GBA version.
yeah.
And we were in talks with Midway, who were kind of, big in, next to Nintendo, they were sort of the guys who were publishing a lot of
Yeah.
GBA games. It just didn't come to anything. I think the time had passed, kind of thing, so it was put on the shelf
And then
just forgotten about.
Yeah, I remember reading it, and I just had to clarify: was I imagining reading it? Or
No,
was it real?
it's out there somewhere.
That's that.
Oh right, that's cool.
There we go.
Cool. Oh, well, if you've got any follow-ups, just email me.
Yeah.